We've never had a tragedy like this in the entire history of deep submergence, deep diving.
On June 18th, an underwater vessel touring the wreck of the Titanic went missing in the North Atlantic shortly after being deployed. As the search for the 5 passengers on board dragged on, Twitter memes about the irony of the situation reached unprecedented levels, and details revealing the logistics of the expedition suggested it might not have been a great idea to begin with. By the following Thursday, the U.S. Coast Guard announced that it had located wreckage from the sub, which looked consistent with a catastrophic, and evidently fatal, implosion. As crews dredged up the debris this week, the Coast Guard shared another development. They found presumed human remains mingled with the mechanical evidence on the seafloor. So, what was the deal with this submarine? The missing vessel, called the Titan, was not actually a submarine but a submersible, which means it couldn't power itself into and out of the ocean. Instead, it was deployed and retrieved by a mother ship, which needed some kind of contact with the submersible in order to recover. It was operated by a Washington-based private company called OceanGate. OceanGate has been conducting tours of shipwrecks and underwater canyons since 2009 when it was founded by a Princeton grad named Stockton Rush. This was OceanGate's 3rd trip to the Titanic wreckage, and it cost $250,000 per passenger. Let's see what exactly happened. On June 18th, the Titan left a Canadian expedition ship near Newfoundland to go 13,000 feet underwater to the ocean floor, where the wreck of the Titanic is located. The surface ship last had contact with the submersible about an hour and 45 minutes after it was deployed. Canada and the US sent out armed forces, surface vessels, submarines, sonar buoys, and aircraft to try to locate the Titan. They searched an area about 900 miles east of Cape Cod. This was as big as twice the size of Connecticut. There was initial hope when banging sounds were heard coming from under the surface. But it was clear by June 22 that all 5 passengers on board were most likely dead. The Coast Guard announced that one of its search vessels had found a debris field about 1,600 feet from the Titanic's hull, and it was later identified as 5 pieces of the Titan. The debris was consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel. On June 28, the Coast Guard released a statement saying it had received presumed human remains. Those will now be analyzed by medical professionals in the U.S. Who was on board? There were 5 people inside the vessel: OceanGate's founder, Rush, a billionaire British adventurer named Hamish Harding, the French maritime expert Paul-Henri Nargeolet, and a British-Pakistani businessman, Shahzada Dawood, who had brought his 19-year-old son Suleiman. It was later revealed by Dawood's sister that the 19-year-old Suleiman didn't want to go on the expedition but agreed to join him because it was Father's Day. Another unexpected detail about the characters on board was revealed. Rush, for example, was married to a descendant of a couple who died on the Titanic itself. Archival records show that Rush's wife, Wendy, is the great-great-granddaughter of Isidore and Ida Strauss, 2 of the wealthiest passengers on the 1912 voyage. James Cameron allegedly included an homage to them in his film Titanic, in which one shot shows an older couple lying in bed together while water rushes into their cabin. At this point, you may ask, why tour the Titanic? The Titanic sank in 1912. But its wreckage wasn't located until 1985. Since then, researchers, experts, historians, hobbyists, and everyone in between have been paying visits to pillage items from the ship. The first tickets to visit the remains were sold in 1998, and since then, 3 companies, one of which has worked closely with OceanGate, have conducted similar trips. It seems the people on board the Titan were there for both research and sightseeing purposes. Could this situation have been avoided? While rescuers scrambled to locate the Titan, details emerged suggesting the voyage had been pretty dubious to begin with. In 2018, OceanGate filed a lawsuit against a former employee, David Lockridge, whom court records show had been working on a report about the dangers of the Titan's construction, but he was fired by Stockton Rush. The crux of everyone's worries was that Rush, the company's founder, who was piloting the vessel when it disappeared, refused to have the Titan inspected by an accredited agency. James Cameron, who has himself visited the Titanic wreckage in a submersible 33 times, pointed out the similarities between the Titan and the original Titanic. He recalled, the captain was repeatedly warned about ice ahead of his ship. It's a very similar tragedy, where warnings went unheeded.
But to me, the big irony is that the Titanic sank because of bad seamanship. The captain was warned, and he took a decision to go full speed into a known ice field. And I kind of feel that that's what happened here. I feel that this was such a preventable tragedy.